All right, welcome everybody to a new episode of the Busy Life Podcast. My name is Julie, and today you guys are in for a treat. If you have ever considered being a personal trainer or starting your health and fitness journey, this episode is for you. And this is for the people who are either deep in their journey, who are new to their journey, who have to restart their journey. You guys are seriously in for a treat because I have with me today one of my favorite people that I've met through Instagram. I'm going to let her introduce herself first, but I do have to tell you, this episode is going to be filled with such big truths about personal training, about working out, about being there for yourself, even motivation versus discipline, all the things we're going to talk about today. And you got to buckle up because it's going to be a great episode. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and we're going to jump right in.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hi, Julie. Thank you so much for having me on. I am Patricia Poor, patricia.fitnesscoach on Instagram. Some of you might know me because I have been in Julie's fitness bubble for the past 6 years, maybe. We've known each other, I think, since 2018, right?
Holy cow, has it really been 2018?
I think
Oh
so.
my God. Pat, I've been following Pat for a long time. Like a long time. I didn't even realize okay, pause. How did we meet? Like what
Well,
how
I was thinking about this before this episode, and I think I also started my fitness journey with sweat, right? With
oh
sweat.
yeah.
So it's Kelsey. It's Kelsey Wells, right?
It's Kelsey. Gotta love you, Kelsey. But yes.
So that's how I started my fitness journey back in 2018 as well. And I think you were probably one of the first people that I started following, or we started following each other, as like a community. I don't
Oh,
know. That's when I got on Instagram. And yeah, so right now I am an online fitness and lifestyle coach for perfectionist women who overthink things. So this is my kind of women who I work with, which like if you saw Julie right now, she's just like nodding her head, like, oh my God, yes, I know.
this is why I asked Patricia to come on because I think the reason I even asked you to, not just because I love you, but is because I saw something you posted and I was like, oh my God, get on my podcast and talk about this with me. I can't even remember. Do you remember what it was?
No, I don't. I don't have that piece of content. However, I do talk a lot about and a lot to perfectionist women and what we're thinking. And these like anxiety spirals and anxiety episodes and these overthinking episodes where just like your head is going like, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I need to do that, I need to do that. And you just like can't stop. And this is the type of women that I work with because I see a lot of women like doing so much for their fitness and for their health and for their nutrition and not seeing results. And I'm like, girl, it's not like you don't need to do more. You just need to do more of the right things. So because the effort and the time that you're putting in, that's enough already. It's just you need to tweak a few things and then be consistent with it. And that's when you get to your own results.
I literally I can't even put in words how much my body is like, yes, like, yes, that is it. There is often so many times that I see it too. And I remembered what I saw. You posted a reel that was like different things that you've heard people say are getting in the way, or different things that like different things that you've heard your clients say to you, and you're like, no, this is not what you should be doing. And if you guys are like, well, wait, what are those things? Like, I need to make sure I'm not doing those things. Think about it. It's like overdoing the things that you already know you should be doing. Should you be exercising every single day without rest? No, you need to take a rest day. I mean, even take myself, for example, my plan today was to go do legs. I was going to go squat. I was going to do all those things. I woke up and my body was so sore and so tired. And I was like, no, I listened to my body. I didn't shame myself. And I said, that's okay. It sounds like you need a rest day. Leg day can wait for you next week. That is okay. It's also things like over tracking food. I think there's like a bit of a difference between, hey, I'm going to eat something that makes me feel good and makes my body feel good, and then getting upset if you had one cookie at a birthday party that you can't track because, oh my God, now it's going to be so detrimental. And it's like, no, please enjoy the cookie, enjoy the party. And then
Yeah.
I think it's also things too, like any tiny mistake you make, you beat yourself up for it.
Yeah, what I always say is that with the cookie example, for example, or with like anything that you beat yourself up about, is really what's more detrimental than eating that cookie? The guilt that you're feeling afterwards and that mind fuckery that you're putting yourself through for the next foreseeable future, like for the next 24 hours. And you just can't focus and be present because you're thinking about that ridiculously like yummy cookie that you ate that you should be feel really happy about that you ate it instead of beating yourself up about it. So that
Yeah.
is definitely much more detrimental. So I think like what you are also always talking about is sustainable fitness, which is something that I'm trying to coin in the fitness industry because first of all, like I am so fed up with the mainstream fitness industry with all the detoxes and juice cleanses and whatever 21-day ebb, secrets and whatever. And what I'm dedicating my life work now really towards is to be this voice in the fitness industry that tells women that like you need to find something that's sustainable for your life. And I call myself a sustainable fitness coach as well, and I talk about what sustainable fitness is and what it isn't, right? And obviously like overdoing things, extreme dieting, extreme cardio, that's definitely not it. I actually have a background in bodybuilding, so in 2021 I got on stage twice in the bikini category. So, don't like, I don't know if you're in the fitness or bodybuilding bubble, but don't imagine me as like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like not the big bodybuilding
Oh,
person.
but she looked fire. She definitely earned it. If you guys need to, everybody listening needs to pause for a second and go look up Pat on Instagram because she looked fire, and she looks fire now too. But that was, you could see some serious discipline there. And that is always so admirable that you went through that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. However, that was the experience that pushed me towards sustainable fitness because getting on stage, getting to that, I had like less than 14% body fat. And as
Wow.
yeah, I was like freaking lean. So, exactly as you said, like my experience with bodybuilding, I am proud of it. I won a couple of my categories. Like you will see pictures of me freaking lean in like a shiny bikini, all glammed up with 2 medals in my neck. Okay.
Yes.
That is like showing women and the world on social media that this is what gets medals, right? And this is this is the body that you need. And I do want to say that what I'm proud of in that is the discipline and the resilience that it built in me, and that I showed myself that I could do it because it was fucking hard, right? So for like four months straight, that's the prep period, when you're the leaning out period. For
Ooh.
4 months, that was 16 weeks. It was a crazy, crazy diet and prep. It was cardio, it was meal prep, eating the same thing every day, meal prep every day, Tupperware. You don't eat out. Whenever I went to restaurants with my friends, the first thing I would ask from the waiters if it's okay if I eat my own thing. I would usually say that I have food intolerance, so they don't ask me like, "Oh, you can't bring your own food," But
Oh.
yeah. Um, and so the cardio, obviously, the more you have to lose, the more cardio and energy output you need to do as well. So my cardio used to go up and up and up. And by the end of, my prep, I was doing 1 hour cardio every day. So I had like virtually no rest days 5 times training in the gym,
Oh,
and 12,000 steps on top of that a day,
holy shit.
which which was on top of my cardio, my 1 hour cardio, which means that I took off my watch when I was doing my cardio because those steps on the treadmill, they didn't, well, I did it on the elliptical, they didn't count towards my 12K steps per day.
Shut
So
up.
imagine my days being I woke up at 5 a.m. so I can start on my steps. So I went out, in the dark, did an hour of like walking around. And then I went to the gym, and then I started work. I was still working a 9 to 5 job. Okay. So I wasn't a full-time fitness coach at that time. I was only doing that on the side. Then I started my job. Lunch break, 1 hour cardio. I would leave, 5 minutes before my lunch break at 11:55, run to the gym, which was like right next to me. So it was very convenient. 1 hour of cardio. By 1:05, I was at my desk again. It was like,
No.
yeah, and then after work, I finished my steps, prepared my food for the next day because obviously your Tupperwares have to be like ready and good to go. And then you go to bed at 10 because you need to get up at 5. So at some point, I also couldn't go out anymore because I could go out, right, with my friends to a restaurant. But then if I get home at midnight, I get to bed at midnight, my whole next day is fucked. So I'm like, that was like at some point, like, like my social life declined and I also didn't have the energy. And but you know what, but I was so fired up, right? I was so fired up because I was so efficient, I was so productive, and I was leaning out, right? Like I and to be fair, like everyone needs to know that bodybuilding is an extreme sport. So I chose this. So I tell you all of this, and I don't want you to be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, no, 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 I chose this. I could have said, like, no, I'm done. But I wanted to do this because I used to be a very goal-oriented person. And I would always set myself goals of like, this is what we're doing. First, I wanted to run a half marathon. I ended up running 14 because why? Julie just can't. Why? Because I'm a perfectionist, overachiever woman who is like, if I have an idea, then I'm going to execute on it, right? And I think a lot of you and a lot of your audience will resonate with this.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because you know what though? The first thing that came to my head while you were explaining all of that is how is your mental health? Because I can't now, and you know what? Okay, I'm having like 1,000 thoughts go through my mind. My previous fitness journey was extremely disciplined too, extremely disciplined. And so I always try to like refer to myself in like years like of my times. Like that version of me is like, oh, duh. Like if I could have done that, I would have done that too. But then like my current version of me is like, whoa, like,
Yeah.
but you're right. It is important to mention that that is a sport. There is nothing wrong with it per se. It's just a choice, and you have to commit to that choice. However, it's like two sides of a spectrum that you have to decide, are you well enough to do these things? You know what I mean? And I think that's why it's important that you should be proud because like you said, you're very goal driven, you are very um aware of your wants and your needs, and that is super important. And it's an amazing thing, honestly, that you did compete and you won and you got all these medals. But I love, though, that you also recognize that that ends up being the poster for women who don't have that mindset that, hey, this wasn't a fun sport to compete in. Women who are like, oh, well, fuck, I have to look like that all the time. It's like, no, 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 no. And I think it's just important to differentiate the two, which I know you're getting into, but it's just so crazy that like that's literally what it took for 4 weeks.
For months.
4 months. Oh my God, 4 months. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like replaying what you said about the 12,000 steps, and that's not even in your cardio.
Yeah, so first of all, like you need to know what you're willing to sacrifice. And I went into this and I was like, the next 4 months of my life is about this. And I want to try this. I want to see how I'm doing and then see what I do afterwards. And honestly, while I was in it, I was like so fired up, right? Because I was so productive. I was getting all these results in my body, everything. And it was only afterwards when I had to reverse out of, again, we need to talk about this as well. You need to reverse out of extreme diets. When I realized, like, oh my God, like I haven't eaten by myself, like I haven't decided what to eat for the past 4 months. So now I don't trust myself around food. And
No.
I had to relearn to eat again because I was like, okay, if I had to eat 100 grams of salmon, I had 100 grams of salmon for 4 months. And I was so good at following, what I needed to do because I'm kind of like a control freak, or that's what I, used to be.
I
um,
get it. I get it.
I thrived on it. I'm like, I can control things, yay! But in the
I
real
wish.
world,
I get it. I get it.
yeah. But then afterwards, you're like, am I allowed, like, is it okay, will my body be okay if I eat something off the plan, like, and it took me like 8 or 9 months to actually like really like relearn to trust myself around food.
Pause
um
right there because I need everybody to hear that again. 8 to 9 months. So, for all of you who are sitting there, let's go back to that cookie story. All of you who are sitting there, and I know I do this sometimes too. I'm guilty of it. I'm not going to pretend like I'm this perfectionist that doesn't have anything wrong with the food I eat, but wow, 8 to 9 months to totally relearn and go through that process of it's okay if I eat the cookie. It's okay if I didn't follow the plan. Tell us more about that.
So obviously, because I was on a meal plan, first of all, when you're on such low calories, first you really need to build back up your metabolism. So you can't just like from one day to another, okay, competition over, now I'm gonna have two pizzas. Like that doesn't work because your body like is just whoa, like it just your body will be like, what the fuck are you doing? Uh, so you very slowly need to build up your calories, and you really need to look at your macros as well and the food sources. And it doesn't mean that you can't have anything off plan or like, like a more processed foods. You can start incorporating them, and you have to start. But it's also step by step. So it also is a process, and that process took me like obviously first I was still eating on a meal plan, but more. And then slowly I transitioned into tracking, calorie and macro tracking. And it was then when I started playing with, okay, I can get my fats and macros, my fats and carbs and proteins from different sources from what I had on the plan during my competition prep. And that's how I slowly, learned to trust myself around food again. And I want your listeners to also to understand that I already had a past in fitness and macro and calorie tracking. I know how much my body needed to eat before my competitions. I could eat intuitively, and I can right now as well. I'm maintaining my weight and my body composition for the past like 2 years. I haven't really tracked. And yeah, it's like, I like once you learn, and I think this is where macro and calorie counting comes in, and it's very, very useful because it's the education in nutrition that you've never gotten in school. And I
Wow.
think this should be taught in school. That is my personal opinion as a fitness professional.
Yes. Why are we learning about calculus? That's something I've always asked since I was in ninth grade. I wish we had, that's like those basic classes they always say we should be learning. First of all, it should be health and fitness and not PE. Like, there's a difference between PE and health and fitness. When people hear the words PE, they immediately are like, oh shit, I have to run the mile, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. It's like, no, no, no. Health and fitness is how to take care of your body. And I don't know that curriculums are written that way. And I actually do know that for a fact. I'm not a PE teacher, but as a teacher, I know that they're not written to meet every person's needs. So there's that. And then the other one should be food and how to eat and take care of your body. So that way we don't treat it like a garbage can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like, in PE, it's very interesting. I've spoken to a lot of other fitness professionals as well who used to be shit at PE, in PE class. Like just like I could, yeah, Julie's hand is up.
Same, girl, same. I was like last place when we ran the mile in high school.
Yeah, and it's like everyone is measured with the same like things. Like I don't know what you had to do. We had to like climb up the rope and
Oh, hell
everything.
no. I wish
Or
I'm glad I didn't because I would have not climbed it.
I never could. And since then, I have never even tried because I have PTSD from that. Like, I can't. I'm like childhood trauma. No, sorry, I don't want to. No, I don't
Oh,
want
you're
to.
fine.
Yeah,
You're
I
fine.
know. I'm
No,
joking.
it's okay because it's true. I mean, I think of PE and I get traumatized and I think of it because I think back to my my middle school years where I was extremely unhealthy and unable to do things. And I remember this is a really embarrassing story. I remember we were doing the sit-up test and it was just however many sit-ups you could do.
Oh my God.
And I got again, think of a very just whatever in your mind is an unhealthy sixth grader is what I was. I just didn't care about my health and fitness at that point. I wasn't raised in a family that was important. Like being healthy was different than having good health and fitness goals. So I had to do a sit-up test. And I remember I got to 7 and I was so proud that I did 7 proper sit-ups. Like they had like the tape on the lines and your fingers had to pass the tape and go forward, whatever the hell it was. Yes. And the girl next to me got 120 sit-ups.
Oh my God.
And after that 7 that I was so proud of felt like nothing. And it sucks because PE to me reminds me of competition and it reminds me of unhealthy competition and things that other people can do that you can't, like during gymnastics, watching everybody doing all the forward rolls and everything. And it's so frustrating because it's just not, it's in my opinion, I know we're kind of going on to like a PE topic, but it's not a proper measure of your own health and fitness. What it turns out being is a like, can you do this? Yes, no. Can you do this? Yes, no. Can you do this? Yes, no. And it's like, no, let's talk about what your body is capable of doing at this moment and making you 1% better every day.
Absolutely. And I think like it is very relevant, this PE topic, to our current fitness and perception of what fitness and health means, because that's what we were told as children, that's what you need to do, and that's how you were measured, whether you're fit, like how many sit-ups can you do. But when you become an adult, like obviously how many sit-ups can you do? I don't give a shit, right? And like as a fitness professional, I look at you, that's not going to be my first question. That's not on my onboarding questionnaire when you start with me with a client as a client. How many sit-ups can you do? So and I think that as a first memory of fitness is ingrained in our heads. And right now, what we see on social media is that if another woman is in fitness and they can do a heavier squat or 2 like more reps than you in the gym and whatever exercise, then they are better than you. And this is, I think it comes from that first memory. It can come from that first memory that you had when you were a child. So I think it's very, very relevant. And this is something that I do want to dismantle as well. So me as a fitness coach, I teach and I coach with a bodybuilding method, because so throughout like my whole journey, I sacrificed a lot, right? I sacrificed my relationship with food. I sacrificed my social life. I lost my period. So I did go to such a low body fat percentage that my body said like, you are not fit to bear children.
Said, never mind, not Patricia. Next. Which is not good. We can joke about it, but it's not good. That's not good,
no,
guys. Don't do
it's
that.
not. And
Joke.
exactly. And like, so girls, if you're listening to this and you are thinking, oh, but I hate my lower belly, I want you to look at your lower belly and be like, I'm so grateful for you because you protect my vital organs. And that's what makes my body fertile. And I do want you to understand that. And yes, most of us, I've always been a girl who when I sat, in like class in high school, I would cover my belly with a jumper because I always thought that I had rolls. So that was one of my biggest insecurities in school.
I think it is one of the most biggest insecurities that women of all ages have is
Yeah.
their belly. And even to this day, I still have insecurities of my belly. And there's so many times I have to turn that voice off and be like, stop it. Like that is not what defines you. And also that is important. And that is important to have because like you said, you're a woman and that is what is protecting your vital organs and it is protecting your
Essential body fat,
yes,
basically.
yes,
Together your uterus, and it is literally
yes.
there. Um, and yeah, and yes, you can get leaner on your belly and on your waist. And I do find that also I do like a small waist, okay? Because as a bodybuilder, I'm a big I'm a big proponent of like the bigger shoulders, small waist, and bigger glutes, the hourglass shape.
Girl.
And I don't think that there is an issue with wanting to look good. But how you get there and what your measure is, that has to be personalized and sustainable. So yes, going back to like, I lost all my body fat, from my lower belly, but I also lost my period. So you choose now. Would you like rather a little bit more fat on your lower belly or not have your period and the chance to bear children? So yeah, I have done the extremes, and
Mhm.
I am proud of it because I achieved something insane that a lot of people would never want, and that's okay as well. But this also taught me the importance of, what are you willing to risk? You need to ask yourself, what are you willing to risk? And I want to say that whoever is currently preparing for a bodybuilding competition, I am with you and I support you. I just want you to know what the risks are. And I want you to work with a medical professional, take your hormone labs, and work with people who can actually help you do it in the healthiest way possible. It won't be healthy because at some point you will have to push through, like, that point. However, if that's your dream, do it, but know what you're risking. But
Absolutely.
otherwise, if you're not preparing for a competition, but you are doing every day, you just want to be a fit girl who looks good and feels fucking amazing, then you don't have to come like not even close to these extremes. I would never tell you, like, if you like, okay, first thing I tell my clients is 2 rest days, obligatory. There is no week where there are no rest days. And one of my questions in the weekly check-in questionnaire that I do is, how many rest days did you have this week?
Good for you because we need to prioritize rest. Think back to that story I literally said this morning that or earlier on is that I listened to my body and I said, "Uh-oh, looks like we need a rest day today. Let's stop." And that's not a bad thing because I'm telling you what, if I had gone to the gym and I squatted this morning, I would probably have hurt myself because I was tired and my body was like, "No, thank you. I can't do this." And we need rest to let our muscles strengthen back up. I feel like a lot of people forget that when you're working out, you are tearing apart the muscles.
Yeah.
And in order for them to grow and in order for you to see that progress, you actually have to rest. So I
Because then
love,
they can heal. Yeah,
yes, I love that you make it mandatory to have 2 rest days.
absolutely. And
We're
so,
going
but having said that, so I love that you said that you took a rest day because you listened to your body. And I do believe in that. However, as a fitness professional and as a sustainable fitness coach, I do want to add that you are a fitness professional yourself.
yeah.
You know when and how to listen to your body. And here I might say something controversial, but I've seen this being kind to yourself, be kind to your body, listen to your body, go way too far. And people are actually using it as a way out
Oh,
to
like
not
a
do the work.
lazy, like a lazy route. Like, oops, I didn't need that, so I'm gonna eat the whole pizza and be kind to my body.
Yeah. Or
Mm,
like I'm gonna skip my leg day because I just need to be kind to myself. Then on some days you need to know when you need to push and when you need to actually show up and that like go in there with dedication, not motivation. I don't give a shit if you're motivated. Some days you just have to use that dedication that you have in yourself and go in and do it. And sometimes doing the hard thing is actually being kind to yourself. So if you are very new at fitness and at this journey, I really recommend that you work with someone who teaches you when to push yourself and who calls you out when you fall into old patterns, but label it as being kind to myself. And when they actually say like, no, you actually really should have rested this day, And so listening to our bodies only works once we actually know how to listen to our bodies, once we actually get in tune with our bodies. And I think a lot of people at the start don't know. They have just no idea. And it
yes.
takes time and practice and skill, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely. I mean, I'm like, first of all, there's been so many truth bombs that you've just dropped that my brain is like, yes, 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 like, yes. And that is so true because you're right. I do forget that, like, I know now. I've been doing this for 8 years. I know when my body needs that rest. And it's a hard thing to teach. Like, it's hard to tell people, hey, this is a rest time and this is a push yourself time. And I think the kind of golden rule that I follow when it comes to that is is this a pattern you're doing? Like if you're having a cupcake every single day, that's not you treating yourself. That's you falling into a pattern, and that's okay, but it's time to break that pattern. Or is it I've pushed myself 6 days straight? It's really time to rest. And I think the best thing to do that I've taught my clients is to keep a journal. I know it's a really tedious thing, and I know a lot of people don't like it, but it's like how you have your weekly check ins. And you don't have to track to 100% of a T if that's not what works for you or if that's not your jam. But you do need to keep track of the days you've worked out and on like a general scale of how you feel about the food you ate and how did it make your body feel? How did it make your soul feel? Like, did you feel like you did your best or did you feel like you could have done better? Because I feel like if you feel like you could have done better, then you know that that was a time that you could have pushed yourself. But if you're like, no, I'm like genuinely so tired, I'm sore, I can't move, I'm on my period, like whatever it is, then yes, it is time for you to rest. So I feel like those are my golden rules. It's like if you're kind of beating yourself up a little bit
mm,
about it, then maybe you've got a little bit of guilt. And that's a dangerous path to go down. And like Patricia said, I really recommend that you do this with somebody like myself or somebody like her who is certified in this and can help you understand the difference between I am pushing myself too hard and I'm not pushing myself enough, because that is a fine line that I think you have to be careful when you walk. But you are right. There are definitely people who are using the treat yourself, girl. I'm going to have a whole pizza every day. And it's like, no, 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 no. Then don't get upset when you didn't reach your fitness goals, because that's not what your body needed. It's not about comparison. It's not saying, oh, that's not what other people are eating online, because fuck what other people are eating online. That's not what your body wanted. And you know that. That's what your mind thought you wanted. So I completely agree with you on that.
I think it's so good what you said that you work with your clients and you ask them to journal, right, every day or whatever your method is. There is a way to make yourself aware of what you're doing. And I think especially when you start out or when you're stalling in your fitness journey, you're like plateauing, then that's a sign that you need to, first of all, step one is always awareness. So you need to see what are you doing, and then a lot of women who come to me who are plateauing, they're like, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing this, 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 this. I'm like, okay, perfect. That's what you're saying. Now, next week, I want you to write down everything that you're doing. You track everything that you're eating. You track how many hours you're sleeping, how much water you're drinking, how many steps you're taking, and come back to me. And then we compare what you said that you were doing compared with what you're actually doing. And a lot of people,
Yes, hold them accountable.
I'm like, oh my God, Pat, I thought that I was like doing like much more steps. I didn't realize, and I'm like, yeah, and that's okay. And I'm like, I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to listen and to walk with you through this whole thing. So I want you to share and communicate everything with me. And I know that the hardest thing is to be honest with yourself. And if you need to be honest with a coach, sometimes I feel like my clients would much rather tell me what they did wrong than to themselves.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah. It's like, because that's the hardest thing, like yourself to get aware of, like, oh shit, I thought I was doing this, but I
Yeah.
really wasn't. And this disparity of like what you believe you're doing and who you are. And then when someone shows you that like that's not actually what you're doing, it's hard. It's kind of like an identity crisis, right?
It
Yeah.
is because it's honestly so easy to get caught up in it and like to get caught up in everything. And I'm using the sweets example just because I know that's an example I've fallen for in the past. And it's like for me at work, like as a teacher, somebody's always bringing in food. That's just the way it is. Somebody's always got food. Somebody, if you guys work in an office, there's always somebody in the office that has food. And when, regardless of if you are bodybuilding, training, or just trying to be more mindful of your health and fitness, you there's going to be times when you have to discipline yourself and say, you know what, I don't need that, or I really want it, or do I just feel like I need to go over there and have it? And sometimes, yeah, it's okay if somebody brought like cupcakes and cookies and you're like, oh my God, I haven't had a cupcake in so long. You're like, yes, that sounds so good. But if you're like, oh, I had a cupcake last night and the night before and the night before and the night before because that's my thing, maybe it's okay to say no to that cupcake because, like you said, when you then compare your results, if you don't have somebody who's helping you track those results, and then you're sitting here wondering, why am I not getting what I want? Regardless of what it is you want, it's your goals. This is what it is. And you need that accountability in some way, shape, or form. Because I think another thing, too, that we'll even have to do a whole other episode on this is like things that people think they should be doing versus what they actually should be doing.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. Yes.
that would be so good. And that'll come up, guys. Don't worry, that'll come up. Um, Another thing is like there is the controversy of over preparing and over tracking. And which brings us to the whole beginning of what you said is the people who overthink it too are just as much like hard to balance and it's hard to crack that code with them too, because the people who think, oh, I don't need to do this, and then the people who are like, I can't give up, and I have to track this and I have to track that. It's such a hard balance.
It's Yeah, balance is hard, you know? It's hard to learn balance, but first step, if you take anything away from this, is to track what you're doing, right? Like Julie does it in a journaling way, I do it in a weekly reflection. But that is the first step, because what you don't measure, you can't manage. And that is rule number one, step number one. And that's where you will also see that if you and your best friend are tracking what you're doing, you will have different results and you will have different solutions. So this is why the same program, the same nutrition plan will not work for both of you the same way. Even if you're the same height, even if you're the same weight, doesn't matter.
Nope. Everybody has their own thumbprint and their own thing about them, and it is okay because that is what makes us all unique, and it's what makes us all beautiful and individual, and it's about finding what works for you. And I think the biggest thing that I would even say people can take away from this episode is just that there is everything is like a spectrum, working too hard and not working hard enough, sacrificing for your period for the stomach versus I haven't even committed to taking care of this. Like everything is a balance. And I think if there is one thing that everybody can take away from this is that you have to have the awareness in order to be successful. You have to hold yourself accountable. And if you are unable to do so because this is all new to you and you just don't know how, A, it's not your fault. It's okay. Nobody's taught you this. Like we said in PE class, nobody taught you how to do those things. And B, don't be afraid to ask for help. That's something I always say on this podcast is that I never, ever, ever want my listeners to feel like, oh, Julie's saying all these things, but like, I don't know what to do. Ask me, ask Patricia, ask somebody who is a qualified professional, not just somebody who has like, 3 million followers on, I don't know, Facebook or Instagram, but they have no credentials. They have no personal training certification. They just do these cool booty workouts and have an amazing butt and abs. It's like, no, not them. Not them. Go to the people who are certified professionals, your friends who are certified professionals, your neighbor who's a certified professional, and ask them the hard questions. Hey, I want X. What is the most sustainable way to get there?
Absolutely, 100%. And I think also everyone needs to know that when you first start out, or when you restart, or when you plateau and you need to get to the next level, the first 3 months will be harder. And you need to commit to the first 3 or 6 or sometimes 9 months. And you have to put in the effort, the time, the money, the dedication, the sacrifice, because what you need to do, what you need to achieve is to shift your lifestyle a little bit to from what you're doing now to how you want to live that you can sustain. But the first 3 months or 6 months will be hard because you need to unlearn unhelpful habits and exchange them with useful and healthy ones, which will then afterwards like work in your life like seamlessly. But at the start, it seems so hard. And I do get clients who are like in the first month, they're like, Pat, but this is so hard. And I'm like, girl, I promise you, just keep at it for another 4 weeks. This will become second nature to you. And after like the second month, they're like, Pat, like this is just so normal. Now I don't go out for a glass of wine with my best friend. We always go for a coffee walk.
Yeah.
We used to sit and drink, and now we walk and drink coffee instead of wine. And I'm like, that is so amazing. You still have like, your friend time, but you exchanged, an unhealthy and unhelpful pattern to a healthier one. That's still fun. And at the start, it's hard, but the more you practice it, it becomes part of your life.
Yep. It
And
reminds me of that the classic quote, if it was hard, everybody would do it.
yeah, no, if it was easy,
If it, if it's hard, nobody feels like doing it. Yes. No, if it was easy, everybody would do it. You're right. If it was, that's hilarious. I'm gonna leave that on purpose. If it was easy, everybody would do it. There would be nobody that has any health and fitness goals because we'd all be achieving them. And honestly, wouldn't that be a beautiful world to live in where we all are confident in our bodies and we all can go out into the world and enjoy the day and not come home and have the guilt? Like, honestly, I would love that, but we don't live in that world because, like Pat said at the beginning, there is so many unrealistic standards and expectations because of social media, because of what you learned in grade school. And it's just, it's time to put in the work and unlearn those habits.
And I also know that a lot of women and people have gotten burned by other coaches, by other programs who promised them something, and then maybe they achieved it, but they couldn't keep it because it wasn't sustainable. So I also know I pick up some women who are like, "Bet I've tried this and this and this before, and it didn't work." And I'm like, okay, I need you to open your heart and trust me. And I promise you that your goal is my goal. And if you do what I tell you, I promise you that this will not happen to you again and you will be able to keep it. And so I think this is why it's so important to find people like Julie, like myself, and in our bubble, we have quite a few other professionals and women who have the same approach, and learn from them, follow us, DM us, speak to us, and we'll show you, like, you need to change your social media bubble as well a little bit. And I know it's hard to trust after you've been burned, but we are here and we ask you to open your heart to us and we will help you.
Don't you all love Pat? This is why we love you. We seriously, I think this episode needs to be labeled as part 1, and I think we need to do a part 2 and keep diving more into it.
Oh, I'm so down for this. Like, this is, if you couldn't hear, like, this is everything that my heart wants. This is my purpose, to improve women's lives. And I'm so here for it.
Yes. All right, everybody. Well, massive, massive thank you to Pat. This has probably been all my, I always say this, but honestly, this is why I love doing this podcast. I love having women like Pat come on, and I love having you guys take whatever it is that you took from this episode. I hope you took 100 things from this episode, but take what you can from this episode, and please don't be afraid to reach out. As always, thank you so much for being a listener of the Busy Life podcast. Every single listen, share, rating, all of it means the world to me. And stay tuned for part 2 with Pat. That'll be coming out soon. And we appreciate you guys so much and hope you have a great day. And to Pat, thank you for being here with me.
Thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.